What's up, guys? We're going to give everyone a couple minutes to join, and then we're going to get started here. Post the link a little late, so we'll give everybody 2 minutes or so, and then we'll get started.
Check down.
All right, guys, let's get started here. If you have questions, you can put it in the chat. Just let me know if you have them. Or stocks you want me to look at, can do that as well. But yeah, let's get started here. Let everybody know one last time. Okay. Okay, so looking at the markets, let me hop off this real quick. Gonna go to something more clean. Okay. So just taking a look at the markets, basically what's going on here. We're going to be kind of taking a look at the overall market and then get into the rest as necessary, and then any tickers that you guys want me to take a look at. Okay. So as for the overall market, you can see we've just been in this like sloppy mess. So basically all that we're doing is trading in a large trading range, but that's really essentially all we're doing. We're just trading in a box. And so this box may extend down somewhere in here where these two lows are. So if you wanted to be conservative, you could be looking at this range here and then kind of this top range that we have here. So that's kind of what we're trading with now. And we're just trading in between basically. So if you look at this, I teach this in the signals chat a little bit more, but basically we have these Keltner channels here. So this white one here in the back, this white kind of cloud looking thing, basically shows us that we are trading within a normal range of the stock. So normal range is within this like white cloud. Then when you get to this blue cloud, it's a little more, I guess I would say abnormal or greater than expected move. And then once you get out to this outside band, we're really starting to get extended. So everything that happened last week was within a normal range. And typically when we do this, we're setting up in a squeeze, which is this down here. And so that's kind of what I'm paying attention to, right? So we've just been trading in this range, chopping around, doing really nothing. And my opinion going into this week is we're going to continue to do the same. So we've tried to break out a couple times. We've been rejected. We've tried to push down a couple times. We've been rejected. So what I'm ultimately expecting is that we are just going to continue to chop within this range or basically do nothing, right? So I think we have FOMC on Wednesday. So I would expect us to continue to have this same type of pattern of just kind of nothing and maybe have a few false breakouts below here. But really, I'm looking for the next couple of days, especially Monday and Tuesday, to be just trading within this normal range that we have here, or this white cloud, right? And so let's talk a little bit about what happened, what we were looking for last week. So last week in the Watchlist class that we did last week or last Sunday, essentially what we had seen was a lot of the stocks looked bullish. Like Microsoft looked pretty bullish. Google looks bullish, still did, or still does. I mean, and then Amazon also looked bullish, and Nvidia didn't look that great, but it was okay. Meta looked good, and Tesla looked good as well. And so the only thing that we were kind of hesitant on with the rest of the market looking good was Apple. And so what I was thinking was I'd let you guys know that there was kind of three things that could possibly happen. So I was thinking either we're going to have a choppy move upside, which we did, and this is the one that ended up playing out. So we had a choppy move upside with the rest of the market kind of holding us up, everything but Apple, right? So like these bigger names, like we had a nice move in Meta last week. We had a nice move in Amazon last week. Google pushed up to 52-week highs last week. So yeah, we had kind of these names that pushed up. But in terms of Apple, as you can see, Apple did nothing. It actually, I believe, finished red on the week. I mean, yeah, it finished red for the week. So that was kind of expected. It was either Apple was going to rally, and then these other stocks were going to rally as well because they already looked good, and then the whole market would push up. But more than likely, Apple was going to be kind of dead in the water, and these other stocks were going to rally some, and it was going to make the overall market kind of choppy, right? And so that's what ended up happening. So we got that chop. We continue to do that. We had a week rally, and so we got that, and now we're kind of like, okay, what's going to happen now? So what we're going to be looking for here is I'm expecting a couple of days of chop. And I would venture to say that I'm kind of expecting this to continue for a longer period than just the next couple of days. So if you are a person that sells premium, this is kind of going to be your kind of ideal world, right? Something that you're going to be want to continue to do. And so with that being said, we're just going to be looking at basically moves within this range. So what is the best approach going into the next couple of weeks? I would say for tomorrow and Tuesday into the FOMC meeting, I'm going to be looking to sell premium. Specifically, I'm going to be looking to kind of expect that we stay within this range and kind of capitalize on that. That anybody that's buying calls, expecting it to go up, people buying puts, that it's going to go down. I'm kind of going to be the seller of those and collect a premium on those ones that go to zero, right? So that's my first kind of idea that I'm going to pay attention to. And that's what will kind of be my game plan into Wednesday. Obviously, the market can do anything. So I'm going to have a little bit of a plan B. And so my plan B is going to look like, okay, I'm going to day trade on smaller time frame stocks. Or smaller time frames. I'm going to day trade, like catch the moves here, catch the moves basically just the smaller moves within this range, because ultimately we're trading between and just chopping between like this area right in here, like we discussed just a moment ago. So we're kind of just hanging out in between this kind of area, and then we're just trading in between this area, right? So basically there's two options. You can sell premium expecting we stay within this area for the next couple days, and then you can day trade the moves that are happening within the next couple of days. Now, the reason why I lean towards selling premium and not trying to catch any directional moves is because I don't think we're going to have very strong directional moves, and that's going to kill premium, right? And so that's what I'm going to look to capitalize on. People that are trying to play puts, trying to play calls, I'm going to try and capitalize on those people that are trying to catch a move before FOMC that we might not get. Okay. So that's kind of what I'm paying attention to here. So that's what I'm looking for. Obviously, anything can happen. So my bias can change literally in an hour. So like if things tend to turn differently, I'll let you guys know. But that's kind of my game plan here. And you can see these are kind of used as train tracks, like these outer clouds, right? The Keltner channels. So basically what they're showing is when we're in an uptrend, it's going to show these clouds pushing higher, right? Or these Keltner channels pushing higher. If we are in a choppy market, it's going to show they're kind of like train tracks. The train tracks are going higher here, so I'm going to be looking to go higher. Train tracks now are going straight, like they're not pointed up, they're not pointed down. they're just in a straight area. So that's what I'm kind of expecting us to continue until it decides to do something different, right? So that's number one. So next couple days, probably going to be lackluster, not going to be anything exciting. That's the unfortunate thing. But I am leaning slightly bearish if we do break at some point. Reason being is because of the dollar. So if we go look at the dollar, when the dollar goes up, typically equities or the stock market usually does the opposite. So that's typically what I'll look for. And as you can see, the dollar has been strong and been pushing higher for quite some time now. Now, if we look at the higher time frames, like the 3-day, you can see a squeeze just fired off, meaning momentum's being released to the upside, and the weekly squeeze just fired off. So we could see a move right up to here, somewhere in here, this area right up here. So that's kind of what I'm expecting. And when the dollar pushes higher, typically the market pushes lower, right? It likes to do the opposite, because when the dollar becomes of greater value, opposite becomes for the equities, right? When the dollar increases in value, it becomes more expensive to buy stocks in theory when it comes to the dollar doing its thing, right? So that's what I'm paying attention to here. So that's kind of the strength of the dollar is not a good sign for the markets. And so we have to be cautious of this. You can see the lower time frames, squeeze fired off, and so when we saw that sell-off that happened the other day, you can kind of tip your hat to the dollar, because that's kind of what contributed to that movement. And you can see we're just in an uptrend. We had a little bit of pullback and we pushed higher. Okay, so now when we're looking at the S&P 500, and same with the NASDAQ, same thing. We're kind of just in these train tracks, and I can't fully go bearish for a long period of time, because you can see the EMAs, at least for the NASDAQ, are stacked higher. The 8's above the 21, which is above the 34, and right now we're holding the 50. So until this gives me a sign for a longer term short position, I'm going to be focused on positioning long. Now that's different for the lower time frames. Like, as you can see, the lower time frames on the 4-hour are starting to flip bearish. Okay, so I can look for bearish positions that are going to last a lot shorter period. So basically what I'm saying is, for the next at least week, I would say, I'm not really going to be looking for swing trades, and I'm more so going to be focused on day trades and catching the intraday movements or the lack of movement within the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. So that's what I'm going to be paying attention to. And like I said, when we lead into CPI, when we lead into just overall events, you can expect some boring price action, right? Like, typically everybody's waiting on the sidelines, see what CPI does, and we go from there. That's what I'm kind of expecting into Wednesday. And then from there, that's going to shed some light on, okay, what we might do in the next coming weeks. But honestly, my perspective is that we're going to continue to do this and kind of just keep nothing. And obviously, when we do break, that's the opportunity where we can start sizing heavier into trades. But until then, we're going to kind of be day trading this mess that's going on here, and keeping it light and day trading that mess, and then also selling the premium on these outside bands here, where we continue to just trade within. So that's the game plan going into this week for the overall market. Now we can look at some swing trades and opportunities that we can look for in the market, right? So Apple, this one just looks terrible, and that's another thing that contributes to the market going lower. So that happened on Friday. And so it's kind of the dollar and Apple are what people are paying attention to, right? So the dollar has strength, Apple is weak. It's the number one holding in the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. So naturally, we have to understand that the market's going to have a hard time going up with these two things contributing to that, right? One other thing to mark is that we hit a new 52-week low on the VIX, which obviously, as soon as we got there, we got bought right back up, and we started to get extended. Now we're kind of retracing back to the mean, which the 21 EMA, which we're about there. So Keep an eye on the VIX. We can see if it's going to break through the 52-week low again, and then possibly go to this kind of demand area where we've been getting bought up in past years. So that's one thing to pay attention to as well. But we are at strong support for the VIX. So I wouldn't be surprised to continue to see a pop in that name. So I'm leaning bearish. Charts still look somewhat bullish, but to get an earlier entry, we would just go and use these lower time frames like the 4-hour, so on and so forth. So really, it's kind of going into this week, no bias, and trading it that way. And then once we get a better, prettier picture, then we can kind of trade that as so, right? Okay, cool. So Apple, like I was saying, there's nothing really to do here. We have a 1-hour squeeze going on, right? So we can pay attention to this one, see possibly if we can break these lows here. So now if we look at this, if we go and break these lows here, I'm gonna delete that because I won't use it in that way. But if we go and break kind of this area of support here, and the 1-hour squeeze could very well do that, we'll head back down to this area of support right here, which is right around 170. So right now we're trading around 174. Very possible we could go and trade back down to 170. Now, other side of the coin, market starts to find some strength and the dollar starts to push off. We could go fill this gap up here. And so we got a couple options. So I'm kind of paying attention to what this 1-hour squeeze is going to do. I wouldn't be surprised if we get another squeeze on the 2-hour, and then we'll play it as so, right? So this is a shorter time frame trade as well. And more than likely, see how we're down at this 2 ATR. Every time we come down to this, it kind of gets bought back up, right? So we came down to 2 ATR, 3 ATR, pop back up, got bought back up, went to 2 ATR up here, which is this upper cloud, right? And then sold back off, went down to 2 ATR here, went back up here to the mean, and now we pop back down to 2 ATR, and now it's like, okay, we're setting up a squeeze on the lower time frames. Wouldn't be surprised if we got a little pullback back to like 180 or so. That wouldn't be surprising, right? So we might see something like this. If the market continues to be weak, we get a pullback back to the mean somewhere around there, and then we start to flush down back to 170. So this is honestly not a great setup. So main thing, I'm not really watching this as close. I'm just keeping an eye on this as it is a good gauge for what the market may do in the coming days, because this is the leader of the market, right? Okay. So Microsoft, we have a nice uptrend. You can see, might be clear on the lower time frames, but we're kind of creating higher highs and higher lows. So I'm going to trade it that way until it shows me otherwise, right? I got to trade the trend because the trend is your friend, as they say, right? And we have a good gap to fill up here, right? Okay, so we're also entering back into a daily squeeze. So if we can maintain the EMA stacked here, strong structure, then this would be a good candidate to look for it to move back up to 52-week highs, or really mainly what we'd be looking for is it to fill this gap. Now, if the market starts to pick up and build back some strength, we also have a weekly squeeze that looks very clean, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if we went and tested that 52-week high as long as this can get going to the upside. So we need this daily squeeze to fire off. And then from there, we would see like the 2-day. You can see it's losing momentum, gaining it to the upside. And then 3-day, similar story, which ultimately could fire this one upside. So this one would be a longer term perspective, kind of swing trade to the upside. I like this one. I just need to see it maintain structure and give me a reason to enter on the lower time frames, like maybe the daily, and then we can ride it up and fill this gap up here. So I'm watching Microsoft from a longer term perspective. Google, if I was to go long anything in this market, it would be Google because of its strength. You can see even Friday, we got bought right back up when we touched the 8 EMA. And we're continuing a really, really strong trend upside. So I wouldn't be surprised for us to continue upside and go test some of these upper targets up here. First being this area right here at 143 or 144 area. And then ultimately we're going to kind of get up into this all-time highs. If the market doesn't completely fall apart here, I wouldn't be surprised if we went to get all-time highs on this name, right? It's been a laggard in terms of like Microsoft and Apple making all-time highs, right? So I am looking for people to start buying this one up. And same story with Amazon. I think once we can break this resistance up here, we can start to continue upside. And this one's obviously going to take a bit longer, and I would rather go with Google, but I think both of those names look like strong names in the market right now. As you can see, we have squeezes all over the place. We've got a 2-day squeeze. The daily is already fired off. We've got a 4-hour squeeze, 120-minute or 2 hour, sorry, 1 hour and a 30-minute. So we can take a look at those. This one here looks great. Like nothing to complain about this. You can see we're making, so first of all, I've said this before in previous classes, but when we have a gap up off of earnings and we just trade sideways and wait for the moving averages to catch up to it, that means the stock is very strong. And that's a kind of name that you would want to go long on. So that's my perspective in terms of Google. And as you can see, we traded sideways. As soon as those EMAs came and met us, it's probably easier to say, yep. So it's easier to see on the daily time frame. We gapped up huge, right? Traded sideways. And then once those moving averages caught up to it, we really started to continue to push. And so we had a move, I would give or take about a 10% move from there, right? Or yeah, that's right. Okay, so now what I'm looking for is, you can see, even if you just drew it out and made it of the most basic you could see, like, what are we doing here? You can say, oh, the market's going to fall apart, blah, 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 just based off of the sell-off on Friday. Or you can take the perspective of, okay, what's going on? Higher highs and higher lows. Why would I trade anything different on this name until it shows me otherwise, right? Like you can see, we're clearly making higher highs and higher lows. Why would I try to trade it any different? It just doesn't make sense. Like you could say a prime example is NVIDIA, right? People, this was going up. They said, oh, it's too expensive. It's too expensive. And then next thing you know, we're sitting at 250. And now all of a sudden we hit 500. You can continue to fight the trend, or you can continue to follow it, because obviously it's going to continue in that direction until it really starts to turn over. What's the easiest way to tell if it's going to turn over? If the moving averages cross negative and we start trending lower. Something like this here, where we crossed lower and then started downtrend a little bit, had a fake out, and then continued downtrend, and then we picked back up and now we're trending higher. This name looks weak, not one that I would want to go long right now. I mean, if you just look at it from comparison, look at, would you rather go long app or NVIDIA or Google? NVIDIA or Google? I mean, come on. It's clearly much stronger. So we already have the daily squeeze firing off. We've got the 2-day kind of heading back into a squeeze. And then we go to the 4-hour, looks strong. I wouldn't be surprised if we continue higher from here. We might see a bit of a pullback, but back to the mean here at around 135. And I think personally, that'd be a great place to pick it up for it to continue higher. I think we'll go test 140 pretty soon. So that's what I'm watching here. I really like the 4-hour squeeze here. It's ready to take now, as long as we're in this buy zone here. Yeah, 4-hour and 1-hour squeeze. Let's check out the 2-hour. Yep, 2-hour looks beautiful as well, holding 21 EMA. Got a 2-hour squeeze. And then 1-hour also has a squeeze, so this might be your trigger to get in, but also the 4-hour has already triggered an entry, so you could take entry if you wanted to here. Okay, so this is number one on my watch list, Google. I like that one by far, best name out there in terms of going long. And then Amazon. We caught this name last week for 85%. We caught it when it was making its move to the new high. We got in somewhere around here and then had its move up, but now we're kind of out of this, or well, I mean, we are out of this, right? But there's nothing really for me to take on this trade, honestly, because we just don't have a setup anymore. Like, we trade setups here. We don't really trade just stocks. We're looking for a specific setup. We can see I mean, the 2-day still looks good. You could pick it up somewhere around the 8 EMA, around 140, or wait for it to pull back close to that 135. But you're pretty much going to have to size for zero if you take this trade, and just look for a continuation to the upside. And I wouldn't say it's far fetched for this name to go to 150 pretty soon. So, two names that I'm watching, like main names that I'm watching long, are Google #1, Amazon #2, and then Tesla #3. And we'll get into Tesla as well. Okay, so as for this one, longer term time frame perspective, 2-day looks good. Cool. Maybe I would wait for like a 2-hour, maybe a 1-hour squeeze to give us a reason to enter back in. And then you can play this one and look for the two-day to kind of fire off. And you can look for this one and head higher, possibly into 150. Okay, cool. So that's the main thing there. Setup on the daily time frame isn't there anymore. We played it already. We caught it. It's kind of a done deal. Now we just got to wait for a new setup to come along. Okay, so NVIDIA, this name is starting to look good to go short. It's just not ready yet. So I'm not going to force it, especially how strong it's been recently. But if we can get these EMAs to flip over and then kind of travel back to the 21 EMA right around there into the buy zone and get some sort of squeeze, I would even play it on the 2-hour. If the 2-hour can maintain momentum to the downside and we pull back into this buy area, I would take that all day. So that's what I'm watching for this one. So nothing to play just yet, but I would lean towards playing AMD before I played this one. AMD, you can see all EMAs are stacked negative. We got a squeeze looking to flush to the downside. I think we'll go retest 100. Well, we're almost there at 100. We'll go test this low. I'm fairly certain. But if we get a pullback into tomorrow might be the day to pick this one up and go short with it. And I would lean towards this one before I would go to NVIDIA, right? Just because this name has been like, same thing here. Like, would you rather go long NVIDIA or Google? Obviously, you'd want to go long Google. Okay, now what about NVIDIA versus AMD? I mean, obviously AMD. It's in a stronger downtrend. I'd rather trade that name versus trading NVIDIA, which has been up like 100% in like 3 months almost, or well, longer than that. Like within this year, it's up 100, close to 100%. Could be wrong in that. Don't quote me. Just back of the envelope math. Okay, same thing here. So Meta, this name still looks good long. It had a strong sell-off of the market this week. We did play Meta to the upside last week, and we were able to catch 65%. That was pretty good. I was obviously looking for it to go to 315, but it didn't end up going there. So really, we took entry off the 2-hour. As you can see, clean setup. Higher highs and higher lows, stacked moving averages. Boom, we had a pop up. We were able to trim on our way up once we broke through 310 and then got to 2 ATR and then just flushed down with the rest of the market. So this name, we're losing momentum on the daily time frame, which I was holding some of my position and we got stopped at break even, but I was really looking for this one to kind of fire off this daily squeeze. Didn't end up happening, which is okay. We still made money. But really what we're looking for is I want to see this continue to hold, structure to hold on this name, and then we could take this one back up into 315, but not only 315, closer to the 320 level, and then ultimately a new 52-week high. As long as we can maintain structure here and the market doesn't fall apart, this name looks really good as well. So I do like this name going long for a longer term perspective. So Microsoft and Meta look good for longer term perspective trades. Looking for a swing back into the 52-week highs. And then Google and Amazon kind of shorter term perspective, as well as Tesla being a shorter perspective trade as well. So this one, we're hanging out at 2 ATR. Nothing really to do here besides if you wanted to trade a shorter term trade. This one, I think we could go retest or go push up to 280 before falling back down, but obviously the risk to reward isn't as great as this or as the other names because we're kind of hanging on to 2 ATR. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm this is a shorter term perspective trade for me and making decisions based on that. So yeah, we're continuing to make higher highs and higher lows. Now we'll just see if this ends up being a flush back to the mean for the daily time frame, or we can get a push higher and possibly go touch 280. Maybe potentially we have room to go fill the gap, but that might be a little more of a stretch. It's just a longer or a shorter term perspective trade for this one. And that's really all I've got for you guys. Mainly, like, if you guys have stocks you want me to look at, put them in the chat. Let me know if you have them. Just a quick recap while you guys if you guys want me to look over some stocks, but just kind of a recap. Markets look really choppy. It's more of a time to lean towards day trading or selling premium until we get a clear direction. But names like Google, I think, could still show some strength, and that's my number one guy that I'm going to go to. And then the rest of these names just look okay. Meta and Microsoft also look pretty well, or pretty good too, for a longer term perspective trade. So like if the market starts heading higher, look to Meta and Microsoft to possibly go long. Okay, Netflix. This one had a big sell-off. So here there's nothing really to do. As you can see, we're down towards that -2 ATR, which is a Keltner channel. You can see the last time we got there, or the edge of this blue cloud, right? Last time we got there, we rallied back to the 21 EMA. So I wouldn't be surprised if we did the same thing here. I think everybody wants to go short here. We obviously could keep falling, but I wouldn't enter puts here. I'd wait for it to travel back to the mean and then look to trade it down as long as it creates these EMAs start getting stacked negative. Like here, where they started to get stacked negative, we pull back to this white cloud here, and then you could take it short again. So that's kind of my perspective on here. As for the longer time frames, like the 3-day, doesn't look bad. Yeah, you're kind of just in hurry up and wait mode on this one. There's nothing really to do on this one. You could trade it on the lower time frames, but that might be it. Coin. Okay, coin. This one actually looks good to go long. I like this name to go long, honestly. I think you could go higher on this name. I think we could go higher as long as we hold above this low right here. I think this name could fire upside and break this range that we're in here. So I do like this name for potentially going long. Obviously, you got to be cautious of the market, but if we I think you could get into a smaller position here, look for it to break upside, and we could probably go make a nice move upside closer to $90. So I do like that name. That looks good. What's a 4-hour doing? Yeah, that name looks good to me. I might consider that as well to take that long tomorrow. Thank you for that one. This one looks like it's going to pull back to the mean. There's nothing to do up here. We kind of had the move. We're losing momentum. There's nothing to do here. We're in a strong uptrend. So basically, I would just look for a pullback back to 21 EMA right around this area here, and then just continue to play it upside. So as long as the trend remains your friend, right? Disney. Oops. This one, I mean, potentially could be a short. I'd like to see a squeeze, but this one you probably could just continue to follow this trend. Same thing here. We're just continuing to go lower. Oops. And now we might just continue to go lower. So we'll see. We'll see on that name. Looks okay to go short. I like it to see it but back below the 21 EMA, which is 83.89. And yeah. Okay, so QQQ, this is the exact same as the NASDAQ. So anything that I said regarding this chart here, so I'm thinking we're going to continue to chop and we're trading in a range in this white cloud here. I'm expecting that to continue. I have to remain bullish until it starts to flip otherwise. So same perspective. I think we're going to chop, continue to chop. But if the EMA start to flip over on the lower time frames, I'll go short. All right, Marvel. This name, I think I talked about this name last week. I still like this name short. I think it looks like a good short trade. We could probably go finish filling this gap at some point, but I do like this name short in this area here. NTSS, that doesn't look like a ticker. Can't do that one. Carvana. I mean, it's continuing to head higher. So if anything, I'd go long this name. Yeah, I would go long that name. It's continuing to move higher. So yeah, I would. I like this name long. We're almost at the 52-week highs. So I wouldn't be surprised. I would just follow the trend. Preferably, you guys know I like to see a squeeze. So yeah, that's what I'd be looking for. I mean, I would just want it to continue the trend. I wouldn't go against it as it's pretty strong. This one, I don't know what this one is. It's okay. It looks okay. I mean, we're probably going to head lower, but I wouldn't get it here. I would get it closer up to the 21 EMA and look for it to continue this downtrend. As you can see, we kind of started a new downtrend after whatever news this was. So I would look for this to continue lower, probably back into 260. But yeah. All right, guys. Thank you guys for coming. If you have any questions, let me know. DM me in the chat. I can go over any other tickers you might want me to look at. But yeah, thank you guys for coming. If you're interested in joining the signals chat, just head over to the free trial page and you guys can get in 7-day free trial and see if you like what we're doing there. And we have class on Tuesday for those guys, the signals chat. So that's more educational content. So yeah, thank you guys for coming. Have a good rest of your night and I'll see you for the markets tomorrow.